Hey now, happy Monday. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Transportation and Logistics podcast powered by Atlanta Dispatch and Humblebee Enterprises. I'm excited to be with a very special guest today. We got Jake, Chief Operating Officer of EXO Freight. And before we begin, I did want to share that, it was brick cold this morning. And while on my way to the gym, I saw a group of people under a underpass huddled around a fire, and it reminded me to just be grateful for what you have. And I just ask everyone that's listening in to give what you can when you can to those less fortunate. It can really make a difference. I also wanted to say that in my life, my family's life, we did have a first, so obviously I'm at the age now where I got a lot of friends. They got kids have birthday parties, but this was my very first time attending one of those bad boys as a father. So it was different. It was cool. I felt like I was in a different club. So that was pretty good. And so just with that being said, I just wanted to start with, be grateful and also take time to recognize the small things, the things that you'll cherish. But we got Jake. What's up, Jake? How you doing, brother? Go ahead and unmute yourself.
I'm doing great. I love the intro. I feel the same way, especially with this time of year. I'm in the Detroit area and see similar sights, and I'm thankful every single day. Especially today was like 17 degrees this morning, so it
Yeah.
can be tough, and we were very fortunate.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate the retweet. So for you, my brother, it's been a while. You've been on this stage before, but we're very, very happy to have you back. And when I first caught wind of you, it's because you have very, very extensive experience, not only with the majors, working with the very, very established organizations. You definitely had your hand in startups and helping those companies get bigger and better and offer more. In your mind, because I say that you're more experienced than most, what constitutes a startup in your mind?
Uh, I guess that's not necessarily the easiest thing to answer, right? There's some companies that are just small businesses, so it's not really a size thing. I definitely think there's like a time constraint, right? Are you coming into a company that is kind of figuring it out? Are you creating the blueprints for success? Are you kind of taking the risks? Are you sort of figuring out and paving, um, sort of a new way, a different way? That's kind of it. I mean, there's probably no like really good way to look at it in my mind, but definitely has to do with kind of the culture, everyone working together. No one's a number. The flip side of that is there's nowhere to hide, right? So people their actions every day are magnified. But it's definitely a big shift versus, like you said, working for the multi-billion-dollar companies where and this isn't always the case. Not everyone feels this way, but you can feel like a cog in the wheel or just another number. And working for startups or smaller companies definitely gives you more of a voice and a platform to make change, be yourself, come up with ideas, and not just be someone who sort of has a thumb over them all day.
Right, right, right. Yeah. Well, I definitely take that definition, and it can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. It definitely can. So with that, I did want to say congratulations on the growth over at EXO, and it has to be very exciting right now. But it's also probably a bit gut wrenching trying to steer something that is moving so fast. How's it been over the last year? Because that's about the time. It's been about a year since you've been on the stage with me.
Yeah, wow. Well, thank you for the shout out. It's a lot of growth. It's fun, right? Like it's got to be fun to do this job. I think if everyone, that stays in this industry, either there's something wrong with them, or you find some kind of joy out of it. And it's a unique industry. I love kind of the salt of the earth people that we deal with every day. Right? That's just a nice break from a lot of people that I'm sure we all know that kind of work in the typical corporate America is a much different feel, but the growth is awesome. It's fun. I think I mentioned on the last time I was on. One of my favorite things is hiring people. Um, kind of goes back to top of the call, right? Like there's just it's great joy in being able to give people meaningful work and watching them grow and develop as people, and that's a lot of fun. So love seeing that. Obviously, with growth comes problems, right? Every week is a problem of some kind, and then you get bigger and things change, and there's a new problem, right? So you can feel a little hectic, a little knee jerky at times. You're shifting a lot of gears. But you're just trying to get everything done, and there's not necessarily a person in a role whose job it is to do, whatever that thing is that day. So whose job is it? It's yours. You volunteered for that. So it definitely is a life for someone that likes to wear a lot of hats, doesn't like, sort of that stagnation, doesn't want to do the same job every day. As if there wasn't enough chaos in transportation, we just add that extra bit into it.
Right. Okay. Well, no, I definitely take that. And, when it comes to just your background with EXO, all right. So we talked about wanting to hire people and all those kind of good things. When you came on I guess it was earlier this year, we talked about your focus and why you guys thought that, you wanted to be in this particular niche. Can you refresh us for the folks that didn't hear it? Let me just ask you, why did you guys start with the open deck LTL market?
Well, I would say we're kind of an all open deck, right? So the partials and like the hotshot world, definitely is kind of a symptom of the success and us, just getting full bore, full steam ahead into all things flatbed. It kind of revealed those gaps, right? But we knew on the onset that we wanted to be in a niche. We knew that we wanted to be, a technology company that owns the execution, wants to do the things that other successful companies are doing, right, in the tech side, right. But those companies all focus on the dry van, right? I mean, not I don't want to say it's easier, but I mean it's a little easier, right? It's a little cleaner, right? I mean, you're bumping docks. There's a lot of repetitiveness to working with some of the larger shippers, like especially in the CPG space, right? You know what production is, the stores you're going to or distribution centers. It's a lot of regularity, and you can build really strong networks and kind of work to kind of create a little more bulletproof processes and pricing and capacity. Flatbed kind of turns on its head, right? It's a lot more project based freight. Like while there is some regularity, it's seasonal. A lot of things are going to be just one-time moves, oversized moves, on demand. Like no two lanes could necessarily the same. So it's a little more difficult to wrap your head around. Dimensions really matter. Weight really matters. The carrier base is much more interesting. It's mostly very small fleet and owner operator dominated. So you have a different persona with the individuals you're dealing with on the other side of the phone or of the computer. And it was just an issue that I hate kind of saying this word, but it's kind of an industry that needed disrupted, so to speak, right? Like no one had come in and done and provided tools for the carrier side or the shipper side in that open deck specialized world.
Gotcha. And that's interesting. Maybe I've never really thought about this, but you say that your typical carrier is what, owner operator, one or two trucks. Like, are there, do flatbed companies not normally get to be 100, 200 trucks?
No, it's the last stat I heard. I think it's 96 or 95% is all small fleet, like less than five trucks in the flatbed space. So the vast majority of all capacity is owner op or mom and pop or small fleet, and it's just cost drivers. The again that the being able to build out a reliable freight network, right? Think about the major shippers out there that have that sort of consistent freight. Some of the bigger steel manufacturers and things like that, and some of the lumber. Like, yeah, it's regular, but how much is there for everybody? Whereas projects sort of dominate and those sort of ad hoc needs sort of dominate that space. So, yeah, very different persona. There are some big monsters out there. Obviously, everyone knows Landstar, right? I mean, they're the largest. Taseki, there's the Meltons of the world, a few others that are great carriers. And they've grown really large, or they've gotten to where they want to be, and they're happy where they're at. But I don't provide value to the every shipper by bringing them one of the nationally recognized carriers, right? It's being able to take the capacity pool, the small companies, and present them to one of the major shippers in North America and be like, hey, I can connect you with this capacity that no one else really knows about. And that that carrier, hey, I can connect you with one of the largest retailers that maybe your terminal or your house is a mile away from, but you have no way of ever contacting them for business, right? There's no path for you, and we provide that path and that connectivity.
Gotcha, gotcha. You guys are still requiring 250K on the cargo insurance?
Yeah, so we have, obviously, load value is really important to us. Just when you're dealing with really specialized loads, certain machinery, things like that. But again, we've gotten into the partial world quite a bit, in the hotshot world. So sometimes the load values are less. 100,000 cargo is like the bare minimum, but 250s are preferred, especially for full flatbeds, right? Just make sure we're covered. But there is freight out there. We've gotten a little more technical. With how we present freight to carriers. So you come in and you have 150,000 insurance coverage. I'm able to present you with loads that are within your coverage.
Right.
And if you would ask me, hey, how do I get more freight for you guys? I'm not seeing this. Like my buddy got this load. We can go in and see, hey, you just need to up your coverage. Go to 200 or 250, and we can start servicing those loads to you.
Right. And even just last week on my last guest was a insurance agent, and it was just describing how small the cost is between someone having 100K and somebody having $250,000. It can literally be about 2 to 3, maybe $400 over the course of the entire year. And you would think if you are now eligible for much more opportunities, and probably opportunities that pay a little bit more, that it eventually pays for itself. And that is speaking to I guess some of the smaller operations. Maybe if you have 20 trucks, maybe it's too much. So but that was definitely one of the points that we took away is sometimes investing just a little bit more on that cargo coverage will enable you to get some more prime time freight.
Yeah, and remember, and again, I'm no insurance specialist, but I bought enough insurance, unfortunately. But when they go to look at you as your company, and they say, well, okay, well, what percentage of freight are you hauling that's over that 100,000? That really is 250K. And honestly, it's probably a small percent of your overall business. So, insurance companies take that into account as risk. So they're like, okay, well, we'll bump you to 250 because the risk of you having a 250,000 load on your truck at any given time is pretty low, like maybe 10% of the time you have that. So I would definitely encourage, carriers to look into that and see kind of what kind of cost that is. And it does open the doors to higher paying loads because there is a premium on those loads for sure.
Right, right. Okay, so look, keeping on the startup train, what's something that you guys felt like used to really, really, really think was very important, but you don't put that much emphasis or attention on it these days? Do you have anything that you can kind of speak of about that?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of funny because that happens probably. I don't want to say weekly, but probably monthly, right? Time, attention, and focus. And in our case, we put dollars towards it too, right? We have a really strong engineering team, development team, data science team. So when we decide we want to tackle a problem, we tend to move pretty quick and pull in resources, right? So there can be problems or perceived problems that we spend 30, 40, 50, 100 grand on coming up with solutions for, and then what's the real return on that, right? We've created some really cool tools for shippers around like overlaying their networks on RFPs and trying to find alignment for backhauls and things like that. And it just really hasn't resonated with some shippers for whatever reason, right? And so like, how do we utilize this tool in a better way so it's not a waste, right? So instead of just saying throw our hands up, scrap it, like, okay, let's get more creative. What do shippers really want to see? Is this useful on the carrier side? Is there something here we can start surfacing to our core carrier base? Like, hey, here's a visualization of sort of our network and what freight's moving when. And that stuff's really helpful to people that are on the fly, kind of moving. And I think it's eye opening on the shipper side. You just need to get people to see your vision a little bit, right, and understand why it's important. So sometimes you sell not only what you're creating, but you have to sell them the problem and why you solved for it. Sometimes, right?
Oh, definitely. That's definitely a big part of sales is to let them know that they have a problem in the first place, and that's why you're here, just in time to solve that problem for them. So
Exactly.
I I agree with you there, and you know, so we're talking about startup. We're talking about the open deck market where you saw that there was also lots and lots of hot shots and flatbeds that weren't being completely utilized. What did it take for you guys to kind of hear about some business that didn't particularly pertain to those type of those equipment types, those trailer types, and you were like, you know what? Maybe I should put some attention into this other thing. Like, what was it? Systems? Like, what did you guys had to hear or do in order to start putting attention to those other things?
Yeah, well, part of it is just how do you service your customer end to end, right? If our customers are 85% flatbed shippers and that's the pain point for them, and they love working with us, they love our tools, they love our people, everything about us, and then there's 15, 20, 30% of their business that they have to go elsewhere. I mean, that's a miss, I think, in our world. So we have to think about that. Like, hey, how do we want to accommodate this? Like, it's not a core focus, and we're pretty upfront about that with everyone that we do business with. Like, I'm not coming in to be your LTL partner. That's not our fix.
Yeah.
But you have some LTL shipments, right? Like you're like traditional LTL, and you want to run them through the network, and you're kind of hacking it together, and you'd rather just use our system. I completely understand that. You want a single source turnkey. Everyone's familiar with this, and it's just not a solution worth them going out finding a big solve for. Well, I want to be that solution, right? And try and capture that. And really, it's just a customer service thing. It's a stickiness thing. Does that leave the door open? Even if I'm not servicing that 15, 20%, 30%, does that leave the door open for someone else to come in and service that? And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, well, what about some of this flatbed or some of this other business that you have, right? I mean, as you know, we're heading into a time where people are going to be a little more ruthless with their sales, and there's everyone has the same directive right now to put more freight on the board, and we have some really savvy individuals out there, and they're going to take advantage of weakness, and we don't want to be the weak one at the table.
Right, right, right. I hear you. I mean, how do you feel about that? Where we are in the market, where there are going to be some very, very, very aggressive plays to kind of buy business. Do you think that's where do you think that's going to leave the industry?
Well, it's not a long term fix. Who it depends who you are, right? I mean, how much money do you have to lose? I guess for starters, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Some of the bigger guys, I'm not going to name names. I think they learned, right? They took a beating and kind of learned that you can't go out and buy freight and run it endlessly at a loss. Like, at some point, you're going to have to try and make money. And when you raise rates, I mean, shippers are free to go wherever they want, right? And it opens up the door for someone to come in, despite what you've done, right? And you may set yourself up. That's great, but now you want to play ball with everybody else, and you're not just competing on price, and it puts you in a different, kind of league, so to speak. Overall, it's not super healthy for everyone to go in hyper aggressive. I'm hearing from shippers that they've heard or they've seen on their RFQs brokers coming in considerably less than asset based carriers, which traditionally is not always the case.
right.
It's more prevalent right now, and that's because brokers are just hedging the market's going to continue to drop, and I think carriers are hedging that we're going to weather the storm and things will be fine here soon. And I'm sure the truth lies somewhere in the middle. I think we'll have a little rough go, and then things will right a little bit, and we'll see, what I'll just call stabilization. I don't think 18 months ago or a year ago was healthy. I don't think 2019 was healthy. So, there's always those ups and downs. I think we'll settle into something until the next cycle comes along.
Right. Well, true. It is. It is a cycle. Everything is a cycle. I'm not going to say that I've been in supply chain long enough to just be able to readily identify the cycle, but just researching and being able to see trends, I do know things are always going to swing, to either side. But for you, I felt like you have a great point. The fact that asset-based carriers are coming in at a particular rate and brokerages are coming in lower than that. I mean, for you, would you prefer that it be the asset based carrier's rate to win in the first place? Isn't that more margin for everybody?
Well, it puts everyone in a weird spot, and it's almost like everyone's waiting to see who flinches, right? Once these awards start coming out, and some of these carriers saw, they know the rates they put in, right? They bid 250 a mile plus fuel on any given rate, whatever, and the broker's at $2 plus fuel, and they're just going to post that out on the DAT or their load boards or whatever. Well, is that carrier going to take that lane that they know they bid for, 25% more? Are they going to flinch? Are they going to move it? Because once carriers start moving freight, I mean, it's moving.
Yeah,
And I know that's everybody kind of hates to hear that, right? There's all these groups and Facebook and stuff. I'm in a lot of those groups, and you hear carriers like refuse this rate, refuse that, but at the end of the day, people have a business to run, families to feed. This is kind of like your only way of making it. Carriers don't have a way to just say, well, I'll just hold firm at this rate, or I won't hold a load for under this. Like a lot of people, they need to. And I think there's a lot of predatory folks on the boards. I see, I follow the guys that post those loads, right? Especially like the other, like the meme guys, right? And they
yeah,
post like these loads going for $1.10, $1.15, like that. That's crazy, right? Totally unsustainable. That'll put people out of business. Like, I don't know why that load would be on anyone's board. I think I would probably fire anybody that put that on our load board. It's just embarrassing.
yeah,
But, and I don't know who's on it or why they would. But, I think, again, there's probably a healthy margin for brokers, which is way small at this point, right? It just is. And the most efficient brokers are going to be the ones to win, or most efficient intermediaries are going to be the ones to sort of weather the storm. And everyone that was used to making big bucks and did not build smart businesses are going to struggle. And we are already seeing that. You're seeing that with a lot of the layoffs. You're seeing that with some of the fleet failures, with less entrants coming into the space. So there's going to be a little bit of a reckoning, but I don't necessarily think it's all bad. I think some of it's healthy to shake out the bad actors.
yeah. I mean, yes, definitely, because in the golden age of trucking, where the rates were through the roof at a height that nobody had ever seen before, there were a lot of new entrants that were getting in. Maybe some got in and got out at the right time, but a lot of people got in and they didn't have the pedigree nor the coaching to kind of sustain. It was more so, I have a friend that's doing it, so let me try to emulate what a friend is doing, and probably not having the same infrastructure to support that type of business. So, but I think it's interesting though. We're in a down cycle, and yet we have assets. At least the people are purchasing trailers, more than they have in a very long time. I think the backlog for trailer orders is ridiculous. So, how do you guys feel about that? I mean, Exo Freight, I know what you're going to be doing. It's going to be predominantly flatbed, okay? But if the right opportunity comes along with one of those marquee household names, would you hop into the trailer space as well?
We're actually considering, what does that model look like for flatbed shippers, right? Is there a need for the household shippers that no one knows about, right? So think about, your gypsum shippers, your lumber shippers, some of your steel that have, a lot of loads a day and very kind of repetitive lanes going to certain retailers, right? It's a small niche of this market, but does that lend itself to the model of grabbing, some equipment to stage and doing power onlys, right? Like, does that help us build capacity? Is that compelling? I think the answer is yes across the board. I think that's it really depends on the shippers. Are they going to drive that? Is there, um, you know, obviously sometimes shippers have short memories, right? So we'll see how the next few months play out. But being the one to deliver capacity to somebody when rail was really unreliable, right? So think about some of the big shippers that the majority of their freight goes rail. Just it fits the freight profile because traditional rail, right? They have spurs, they're doing everything. Well, that whole market like flipped upside down when rail couldn't deliver on their capacity promises, and a few rail car shortfalls. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of pounds of freight that's left, right? Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds, millions of pounds, really, right? And so
Hmm.
there's this big uptick in demand for having trailers on standby to be able to react quickly. So there's so many factors, right? I mean, it's really interesting when you dig into why rates are, what happened to this market, what's going to happen in the future. Why are trailer leases and purchases? Why are they still high? Are people just predicting this big need? Are people predicting that we're going to see a big fallout in a lot of the capacity, and we're going to go into kind of what we saw in that 2019, or what's going to happen? I don't know. But fortunately for us, we're just in a really cool spot. The size of our company, we have nowhere to go but up, and that's what I tell everyone. Right? There's some major companies that they're on multi-thousand loads per day or per week shortfalls because they were used to getting so much freight tendered to them, whether it was spot board or contract. It was a bonanza. But we're new to a lot of shippers. We're new, we're coming in, we're novel, we're telling a different story, and they're giving us shots. So, we continue to grow. I'm very bullish on us continuing to grow. Won a nice little award today. I plan to hopefully leverage that into moving some spot for them and improving out some of the tools that we're working on for shippers. So, for us, I mean, we have nowhere to go but up, and I think a lot of small people should feel that way, right? But the only caveat to that is, on the asset side, if you don't have your own shippers and you're relying on brokers for all your freight, you might be in for a little bit of hurt because you're kind of beholden to what they're posting loads for.
Yes, sir. That spot market, man. It can be fun. It can definitely be fun. It's a place where you can definitely negotiate a higher rate. However, it fluctuates so much that it's very, very hard to build a sustainable business when that's the only option that you do have. So I definitely like that point, and the fact that you say you're bullish in hiring. What do you feel like what's been your dream hire so far? What type of personnel has really brought some value over the last year?
Um, for us, it's kind of interesting, right? Because we again are sort of in this role where we're executing freight. We operate as a broker would, right? But a large piece of our company is made up of engineers, developers, PMs, product managers, data scientists, and I would say though that team has made a huge impact. Just the way we look at the world, the way we interface with shippers, the way we interface with carriers. Some of the stuff we've been able to move really quickly on and roll out new products, which I know you kind of brought up, and I'm sure we'll chat about, is like
Right.
we hear the needs from carriers, we hear the needs from shippers, we hear the needs from our internal team, right? And we can just build quickly and execute and build really cool stuff and have a really I would say from the floor, a much closer opinion of how things should look and feel than most other companies, where upper management pushes stuff out that no one asked for. So we're the best hires have been on that engineering, that data science team, being able to we price everything out algorithmically. It's all learning, machines, and it's wild. Obviously, people that are executing freight are wildly important. We have really good operators, people that they way outkick their coverage, people that came from different industries. Everything about mortgages. Well, I mean, mortgages and loan officers and real estate wasn't the best industry to be in for the last 6 months, and they've pivoted into our space and they've carved out a nice little book or a nice little living for themselves. So. Um, we'll continue to do that, like grabbing people that are from outside the industry and making them great. We are hiring experienced people as well, right? We have a few people that have previous books of business, multi years in the industry. We've been fortunate enough to grow at this point where we can afford to hire those individuals and have the infrastructure support them. We want to be able to bring in the really high level talent that feels like they have a great landing spot and it's their last company they can go work for and they can have a nice safe place for their business and feel like everything's you know being taken care of and they're not being taken advantage of for just a book of business and being kind of turned and burned. So that's really exciting, and we're going to continue to make all those hires across the board as we head into 23.
Oh, nice, nice. And look, this is a random question, right? But because you said that you would definitely hire an experienced freight broker, someone who has a previous book of business, and I believe you guys are, not too fond of the non-compete agreements. How does that look if somebody brings a book of business and then they, for some reason, decide to depart? Is that still their book of business?
Yeah, I mean that gets a little strange when you start to look at it that way, right? We do have, we expect everyone to feel safe when they bring business or when they earn business, right? So having an agreement that you're not going to solicit makes everyone at the company feel better, right? Like I don't want anyone to be able to come in, or think about someone on the floor. It's like, well, wait a minute, so a stranger can come in, work here for 60 days, basically memorize all my customer list, and then leave, and there's no recourse for us. Like we want to avoid that. We want to make sure people feel safe with their books and their business, and we want there to be recourse. But at the same time, people should be able to feel free to leave and go and work anywhere else and have a better life with doing whatever they want to do, different company, different role, whatever that is. So we don't pursue anyone for like a non-compete issue. but we've never had this situation come up. But if someone came in and left and tried to take a bunch of business with them, obviously that would be a problem. And we've just never had anyone come in with a book of business and then try and leave. But typically how you handle that situation is you carve those customers out. Someone comes in, they say, "Hey, these are the three accounts that I am bringing. These are my babies. Like, I'm feeling you out just as much as you're feeling me out. I want these customers to be sort of separated from, the typical whatever I'm earning as EXO, right?" And that's a pretty common thing to do, to carve out those accounts. So again, people feel comfortable when they're, again, this is their living, and some of these individuals make a lot of money off their customers and their margin, and they've carved out a hell of a life for themselves, and it's risky to make moves. So you have to make people feel really comfortable and safe, and it's the fair and right thing to do.
Yeah, I love that answer, man. I definitely love that answer. Just being very nimble with how you're, handling each situation, not just hitting everything with a hammer. Some things do take finesse, and I agree. It takes a lot of time and the amount of energy to create and foster an environment between yourself and somebody else, any type of client. It can be a shipper or whatever type of customer, but really there's no way to really put a price tag on that. So I do like the fact that people need to feel protected, and they can and will feel protected. If they're listening to this and they're like, "Hey, I want to go work for EXO," you know what I mean? So I just wanted to put that out there, but also for the other new brokerages that might not have experienced that yet either, and they don't have, they never thought about it, and they don't know what they would do if something did happen like that. So I know that you've been around, so I wanted to hear just your candid thought on that one. And so when it comes down to it, though, um, I would say the biggest thing about what prevents a startup from growing is recognizing when to pivot, and probably even when to expand their core competencies. That's something that I even had to do as the owner of Atlanta Dispatch. People who've been listening to me, have been on my journey, knew that I was gung ho about dispatching box trucks. It was a untamed market, and I was like, there's so many box truck carriers that need dispatchers. I'm going to be there. And then I realized that the market itself, while I was having a great time, while it was making me grind and keep my ear to the ground and get the relationships, which I'm so grateful for, I had to really just take a step back and understand that the industry is not really built to support box trucks on a larger scale. Maybe expedite in the just in time shipments, but that's expending a lot of energy to kind of keep them bad boys rolling, especially if you're doing multiple. And on top of that, this is my last thing. There are load boards that specialize or cater to the LTL, the expedite, and the box truck market, but they're not friendly to independent dispatch services. So, for those factors, I had to pivot from, doing the box trucks to, strictly semis, and now even drayage. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things that I feel like is 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 very enigmatic for uh, a business owner to know when and why and how to change what they've already done. So for you, what did it look like for you when you decided that you guys are going to be offering additional services outside of the traditional, freight brokerage, and I'm leading into the
Yeah,
factoring services.
yeah, no, totally, I understand, and I would say on your first point, because I know you like to read and you do book recommendations. There's a novel, or not a novel, a book by Ryan Holiday. It's called "Ego Is the Enemy," and
Mm,
great read if you've never read it, and basically touches on some of the points you made, right? About you may think this is best, and it's just right for this and that. I'm doing really well, but and the writing could be on the wall that this isn't the best idea, but you get in your own way. because you think you know better than the market or this person or that person, whatever it is, and you don't take a minute to kind of assess and realize maybe you don't know everything, right? And it's a great read. It's pretty easy. It takes into account a lot of the Stoics. So if you're into Stoicism too, it's a really good read. But I recommend that one for those that are in leadership roles for sure. It's a required read for a number of NFL teams too. So you'd be
Okay.
in good company. So, but on your point, expanding services, you gotta change and reinvent yourself a little bit and be nimble. All those points you said, right? Being able to be flexible, but recognizing what are the needs in the market. And we launched EXO Finance, geez, probably a little over a month ago now, maybe almost 2 months ago. And why that came about is we were dealing with a lot of small carriers, and we dealt with a lot of factoring companies, and it wasn't necessarily the best experience for anybody. Um, and we learned just how predatory some of it can be, um, how tough some of these agreements are, how much is taken out, like how hard the factoring, um, you know, makes it hard for carriers to grow and reinvest in their company and to live, week to week. And just understanding that like you need to be able to buy fuel today, and that's a lot, and you need to be able to pay bills and maintenance, and everything comes up. And when you're an owner op or a small mom and pop shop, speed to cash is important. And a lot of brokers pay 30 days on the nose, or they wait till longer, and it's just hard to run a business that way. So especially when you're starting out. So we saw the need, and we wanted to make a difference there and make an impact that was positive on the our carrier base. Right, we don't own trucks. I don't employ drivers. This is the only way I can service my customers. And at the same time, we rolled out our carrier portal, which we talked about on last time I was on the phone with you here. And that is all about how do we match loads to carriers? How do we get them in and have like a really frictionless booking process so they can see the freight, take it from us, buy it now, is right, that real marketplace feel. But let's be real, we don't necessarily have a load for every carrier every time they come and log in. And if it's not matching them, then there's really no reason for them to be on our portal, and they could lose interest quickly. It is definitely an industry of what have you done for me lately? And the big guys have freight, so everyone's drawn towards the largest brokers or the public load boards because there's always freight available. So how do you keep people coming back? Well, you offer products that would keep them engrossed. So the finance product lives inside our carrier portal. We want to set them up. We want to make sure they're seeing our loads when they come in to factor from loads from other brokers or other shippers. It's really what, again, that word is stickiness. How does EXO kind of become this sort of like household name, for lack of a better terminology, with carriers? So they know us for factoring, they know us for being able to find freight, they know us for whatever other products we brought in the future, and that was the goal. And we're off and running, and we've learned a lot, and it's an even tougher industry than typical freight brokerage, that's for sure.
Right, right. Well, no, I love it. And, that's a great point. You're saying, how can I get people to come back to my driver platform where they're able to see my available freight? Well, hey, this is a way to do it. I'll give them the ability to factor all the other loads that they do with anybody that's factorable through this same portal, so that they're continuously coming back, and maybe they'll see a load that they resonate with, that I'm posting, and boom, there it is. I have them. I think that's an excellent idea. How long from idea to actually having it out and about did it take you guys?
Doing a finance product was something that we've been kind of dreaming about or whiteboarding about, since the early this year, even sort of late last year. Like, what would that look like one day to be able to offer something, and kind of it's changed its forms, right? Like, I think it's a crawl, walk, run situation with us, and there's big things we want to do and come up with new ideas, things that are a little more innovative. But I mean, factoring was sort of the low hanging fruit for us. So, once factoring came up as, hey, we should just get this out. Like, let's get carriers involved. Let's like prove this out that we can actually do it, right? And be more than, quote unquote, just a broker to the carrier side. You're talking 6, 7 months of work. And that's on, creating the pipes and the coding, and like, how do we create a really frictionless experience? Like, yeah, you can fire up a factoring company, but is it different than everyone else out there? You can just be the same, right? We didn't want to be the same. We wanted to be, for lack of a better word, right? I mean, we wanted to be one of the least expensive options out there. I think, we proved that we can be profitable with a very little amount of a fee or margin coming out. We didn't want to have any long contracts. We didn't want to have any gotchas. We just wanted to create like a really carrier friendly product. Um, that keeps people coming back and keeps us in a positive light. And to be able to continue to iterate on that, like, hey, let's come out with some new tools and new products that we already have a very loyal fan base around.
Right, right, right. No, I love it, brother. I definitely love it. So I think I saw a price online. Do you market that percentage, just out and about, or do you guys feel like it's gonna change?
Oh no, it's out there. It's out there. That's us, man. I mean, if every you everyone wants to see it, it's published online. It's 1.5%. It is non-recourse. So we vet your shippers and brokers on the front side. If we give them the thumbs up, and we take that factor, we own it. We don't have any long-term contracts. It's just we've been dealing with other factoring companies, right? Because you have to get letters of release and all this other stuff, and there's just so much red tape. Like we don't want to put anyone through this, right? People should be able to do business with who they want to do business with. So it's a month to month agreement. There's no year long. There's no anything like that. If people need a letter of release, it's instant. Having a single point of contact, and there's another big thing we heard from carriers is like they call in and it's a 1-800 number and it goes endlessly, right? Anytime there's a problem, they know they're going to be on the phone for a long time. And we just wanted someone to have an account manager, much like they have in our carrier sales, right? So you reach out, you see a load you want, you call the same person every single time when they own your account on the freight side. So that's a really good experience, and we wanted to keep that on the finance side. So we did that. We created everything through our portal, as we mentioned. So it's just really, really simple. I mean, people can sign up in minutes, realistically, as long as there's no hiccups with other contracts and things that exist, and they can kind of be off to the races. And everything's really visible. The mobile is really great. The web portal is really great. So I would encourage obviously anyone to check it out. But we've gotten really, really positive response from the market.
Good, good. So look, me putting my dispatcher hat on, and the fact that I dispatch for people that have different factoring companies, which means that each factoring company is going to have their own approved brokerage pool that you can book loads with, and those are the ones that you're going to buy the invoices from. Um, is that process for a dispatcher easy to see who you guys actually will buy invoices from?
I don't know if we necessarily have a blacklist at this point, to be honest with you, right? I mean, we just haven't been around long enough to probably create that, or there may be one in my finance lead is probably banging his head against the wall because we have it. But I do know it takes like uh, seconds for a decision on any given broker or shipper if they haven't already gone through. So I'm sure I have a list of all the ones that have already been approved, and I'm sure we're able to publish that to whoever, and that's probably a good idea. If that is a pain point you have, here goes back to that, like listening to your customers. If that is a common thing other factors have, is like, hey, here's a canned list of all our already approved brokers and shippers that we're willing to buy from, then cool. I think that's a good improvement we can work on.
Oh yeah, 100%. Each and every single one of the factoring companies will they have this credit checking portal where you put in either the brokerage's name or MC, and it does the credit check live and right there, so you can know you have the most updated information to say whether or not that carrier should do that load for that broker, or is there a risk that potentially you won't get paid.
Yes.
So yeah,
So once you're in the system, that does do that, right? So you can type in an MC and it will run an approval against that broker. So
yeah,
that,
yeah. That's
that
that's
does
exactly what
exist.
I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yep, that does exist today. Yeah.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. No, I love it, man. And he said non-recourse, y'all. A lot of
Yeah.
people will say that non-recourse does not exist, but it has to if this is a month to month contract. You know what I mean? It's not like it's a year long where the if something doesn't get paid after 4 months, they're coming back to you. Technically, they can already be parted ways. So that's it's just interesting. I think that what you got is in the carrier's favor. So I just say kudos to you guys for seeing the fruit and putting the resources and the time into harnessing this bad boy.
No, yeah, man. I think every move we make is in the interest of who's going to use this tool, and like what does it say about us at the end of the day, right? If are people going to sing our praises and be like, "Wow, this is awesome. I love that they've put this together and they take us into account." We do actually like these user surveys and user journeys where our dev team loves to sit down with carriers and bring them in and walk through and hear their ideas and actually create tools for them. And that's just a stark contrast. Again, I don't want to dog anybody on the factoring world, but I mean, sometimes you hear like, "Hey, I have no choice," or "I'm in a year-long agreement. What can I do?" Or "These are the only guys that would approve me," or whatever it is. And it's not like a positive message. It's not like, "Oh, I've just loved working with XYZ factor company." It's, "Hey, I'm handcuffed, and sure, you sound great, so let's work on a path to get me unhandcuffed." And unfortunately, that can take 90 days, a year. It can take a lot. And doing the even though doing the buyout type situation has been really difficult. So there's a will, there's a way, and we're definitely looking to bring more carriers on, and I'm definitely encouraging everyone to check out our website exofreight.com/factoring. So that's my plug. Appreciate it. Or
Hey.
obviously reach out to me, or go to our website. You'll see factoring on top, but it's all there in black and white. So I mean, if anyone doesn't believe what I'm saying, it's out there, and you can screenshot it and come at me later, right?
No, I hear you, brother. I hear you. Well, look, that's that. I mean, do you feel like there's anything that's on the horizon happening in the industry? Anything big? Any major shifts? Anything that people should kind of start putting their antennas on?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about a lot of it already, right? I mean, winds are changing a little bit. It's an interesting time. You touched on it. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people follow freight waves, and they've seen some of the predictions Craig's put out, and we see the change in consumer buying. I mean, I can't believe I don't think in my entire career, and this goes back to 2008, 2009, which probably you don't remember too much, and maybe some listeners don't, but it was the freight Armageddon, right? There was no freight. It was during the mortgage collapse, and I've never seen a market like that, like out of the West Coast, where no one wants to go to California in Q4, and there's just no freight coming out. Like that, that's a bizarre sign for just this retail season. But it seems like people are still spending, so it seems like people shifted to East Coast. Canada, those that do cross border. It's a little bizarre up there right now too. Rates are tough. I know insurance has been really hard on people in Canada, so that's something to keep an eye out for. And just all these new RFPs, they all are coming live in January, February. Pepsi will go live in March. Anheuser thinks around in sometime in January. Some of these major shippers. It's going to be really interesting to see what rates people want at and what happens to the market. So we haven't even gotten a taste of what's about to happen, and I have a feeling we're going to see a whole lot of very cheap freight being posted, and that's going to set the new line. So be prepared, have customers and direct relationships. Uh, that's your best bet. Playing the spot market will not necessarily be very fun, I don't think, for the first few months of the year.
Gotcha. Hey, man. Well, look, I appreciate you for those industry insights and for coming on to talk about, just the way that you guys have grown your service offerings. At this point, that's everything I had. I feel like if you wanted to say something to conclude, you could, but that's kind of what you just said. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
right.
So the floor is yours if you wanted to say anything else, but I did want to just let you know I truly appreciate you for your time and looking forward to working with you guys.
No, I love the invite every time I come on. Every time I've been invited, I've come on. It's great. Your audience has always been great. They've a number of people have reached out in the past, so I appreciate that. And happy to always come on and for better or worse, give my opinions on things. I love that you let me plug a little bit of what we're working on, so I appreciate that. And hopefully, we'll be able to get you loaded here a little bit more as we trudge through 23 as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, appreciate you again. And everybody, thank you for the support. For the next couple weeks, we will not be doing the Freightwave Sonar team in the morning on Monday mornings. That is because it's holidays. It's holidays. It's holidays, and you know everybody just needs to be able to take some time, some downtime. So we're not going to be doing that for the next couple weeks. So we'll see you in 3 weeks with that. And I would also say check us out next Wednesday. We do have a nice who do we have? Let me see. In Okay, next Wednesday. Oh yeah, we got my brother Larry. This guy is hilarious. He hosts almost every conference, every trucking conference that I've been to over the last year. He is definitely one of the hosts. So very funny brother. So I'm going to be interviewing him next Wednesday. So tune in then. But Jake, my man, you have a blessed one, sir. I'll be reaching out to you soon.
Thank you. Do the same. I appreciate having me on. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care.